Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com.
So, hi everyone, thanks for joining us for episode 102 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. We're going to be talking again with Nicholas Mireles. I think I said Mireles, one of the podcasts I was listening to. It's Mireles.
It works. He's working on it though. I'm working on my Farsi, he's working on Spanish. That's how this works.
So we're just going to talk about what's going on, the practices, immigration law, all that kind of stuff. So first and foremost, you just got back from the AILA conference in Florida.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What happened? Break everything down. What happened over there?
So in our business, this is the big yearly conference. You know, in the plaintiff side game, you'll see CALA. That's the big one every year. Here in California, for us, it's AILA National. So you know, it's almost now it's almost 4 to 5 days now because the events are starting earlier and earlier on the Wednesday when officially it's the Thursday. That's essentially day one. And so I did a red eye Tuesday to Wednesday because I was speaking on Wednesday evening. Obviously, if you're flying from California to Florida, you either fly all day and get there at night, or you do what I did and take the red eye, right?
Yeah.
And so it was actually a wonderful conference. I mean, I'm somebody, and I think we've talked about this, that really tries to go to all the sessions or as many sessions as I can, and there's probably 150 sessions, so it's nearly impossible. But I do my best to do that, and then all the social events, getting together with people, staying out late, only to get up the next morning. And so one thing that was unique about this year was because I think the facility was 100% in air conditioning because it's the hotel and the conference center are one massive structure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was. I think my voice or my respiratory system wasn't used to all that air conditioning, and because I chat so much, my voice went very hoarse the entire time. So the entire time I was talking like it's already kind of raspy. Imagine it being very hoarse.
Wow.
And it was interesting just because it was more of a testimony to I don't sleep during these things. I really go. And from what I like to talk to people. Oh, what do you think? Just because I'm curious. I think people really enjoyed it. Every year is going to be different. We'll talk about it. If you're watching this and you're a member of AILA and you've been to conferences, sometimes the fact that lunch isn't included ruins it for you. Sometimes if you have to go between two hotels, you hate it.
Yeah.
But I thought because of the current climate, I think everybody was just so hungry to learn something, even if it's a field that they do every day, right? And this is something that we always talk about, that even if you go into a session where you essentially do this every day and you know everything, quote unquote, all it takes is one nugget, one kernel, one pro tip from the speaker to really be like, oh wow, I never thought about doing my O1 deal memos that way, or oh, my L's, I'm glad to know that the border, as I'm hearing, is so bad, but it's good to hear from somebody that with CBP out of New York that things are getting better if we do A, B, and C. And so it was a wonderful conference. Obviously Orlando, Florida in June. Anytime we were outside, it was a little rough. But even then, we did a lot of things at Universal Studios. There was a lot of after hours events.
Yeah.
It was actually really fun.
Let's stop because I'm going to go piece by piece. So you get there, it's what it's called, red eye. So you get there in the morning on Wednesday. And one thing is when you go to these conferences like we do, it's really a marathon. It's like grueling. You need a vacation after doing that because it's just
very
nonstop.
true.
Yeah. And I didn't go this year because Florida, my wife's pregnant. She's like, don't leave and just be here and work and all that kind of stuff.
You had me at wife said don't leave. Those are the rules. Our partnerships, right?
Yeah, so I went to New Orleans. It was fun. We had a great time in New Orleans. But okay, so you get there Wednesday. Wednesday is the off day, which is it's not off, but it's.
I was gonna say it's like a soft opening.
Yeah.
Because there was sessions in the afternoon through the evening, and I spoke at 7 p.m. session.
Did you go to law school, law student liaison?
So unfortunately I didn't because, one of two things. I got there at 10:30. It's a massive resort, but it's a conference resort. So they had told us as we were trying to check in early that day, there's 900 people checking out this morning. So it's about turning the room over, which, if you do a red eye, you have to be ready for that. And so there was some dilly-dallying that I did for about an hour while my room was getting ready. So by the time I get in, it was like, okay, you're in this moment. Do I shower and then sleep for a little bit and am I good? or do I just, exist and take a shower and then I'm fine? And so I didn't make it to the law student liaison because it wasn't a panel. It was like a
different stuff today.
It was it was almost like an open forum type thing. And I was really frustrated because I think I had a meeting with my fellow speakers for our event or for our panel that night. So we got lunch in the afternoon. So that kind of got in the way of that.
Yeah.
Additionally, just kind of getting the lay of the land. As you know, when you're speaking in mind, that oftentimes preoccupies your space because you want to make sure you do your best job. And so because that was the event that night, I was very focused on that. So long
good
story.
You got it out of the way on the first day.
Well, that was the other benefit, and with my voice going so hoarse the whole time, it was nice that it happened after the fact. Yeah. So get in. So didn't go to the law school liaison or law school kind of section. Although every year previously, I've unfortunately even commandeered various panels and joined you and your fellow panelists because that's the stuff I really enjoy. But I was fortunate enough to run into a lot of students.
Nice. And was the event at the Universal Studios the first night? So
there was 2 events at Universal Studios. One was the second night, Thursday, and then there was like another event on Saturday. And so I would say the big one was on Thursday, and that was like you go to like Hogwarts theme, the part of Universal, and they close it down. And although it was like 1,000,000 degrees out, and as John does and I do, I don't necessarily dress down at these things. I always kind of wear the same thing, and I'm always in a suit. So once you got used to it, it was fine.
Yeah.
But it was actually very, very well put together because they corded part of it off, so it was just us. It was just ALA members, yeah.
So like regular people couldn't go to the Hogwarts portion?
At this point, there was a section, there was like a train you take, and there was like a secret area that seemingly was just us.
Interesting.
And there was free ice cream, there was not free booze, but there was booze offered, and we had tickets or whatever. So it really was probably one of the more interesting social outing, the Thursday night social outing in the last, 5 years that I've been going.
Yeah.
That was, kind of kitschy because you go to the theme park, but actually executed very well. And then I as found a really good group of like-minded people who are, there for the substantive part, but also want to network and grow and build relationships.
And once I showed my wife Hogwarts, she's obsessed with Harry Potter. Like, no, we should have gone. She immediately regretted it.
I would have been fine being 8 months pregnant or whatever she is. That's funny. Well, next year's in San Diego, so I'm sure it'll just be maybe some at the base, the ballpark there or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe she'll get Hogwarts in a few years. We'll see.
Yeah, because we want to go here. And one thing is because she can't get on rides and stuff, so she has to wait. We wanted to go to the one in California, Los Angeles, but we kept putting it off. But yeah, next year San Diego is going to be good. Like, even though we're in LA, I'm probably going to get a place over there. It's driving back and forth doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, I that would be tough. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so what was the second event at Universal?
So that was big event on Thursday. There was the AAC Awards. That's always, which actually I think Immigration Council just had a big victory as of last night regarding detention and indefinite detention for asylum seekers.
They're allowed to get bail.
Exactly. And so it's one of those things where it's a sister organization, right? It's the nonprofit arm of ALA. And when you donate here, you donate there, you're consistently donating. It's always nice to see that type of stuff because you're reminded of, this isn't just a donation to make yourself feel good or donation because you feel bad. This is real life work that's happening on the ground. And so that was on Friday, and that was, it's a ticketed event. It's kind of a gala.
How was it? Did they have a comedian? Last year they had a comedian there. Yeah,
had a comedian. Let's see, last year's comedian was so good, if you remember.
It was non-stop funny.
Yeah, non-stop. He's Kuwaiti, and so this guy, also very funny, and he was, I think he was first generation. His parents were from somewhere else. He too was very funny, and he was like a political comedian, so he really went into kind of, how unfortunately it's no longer satire anymore, and it's easy to make fun of. But that was good. There was a woman that spoke at the very end that had a mixed reviews because she was kind of formally undocumented herself, and so her story, she's an immigration attorney now, her story is one where what she experienced with dealing with immigration attorneys, a majority of them were very bad, and their experience was very awful, and that it took a single attorney to kind of do what needed to get done. And so her kind of position was like, being mindful that your clients are people too.
Yeah.
And that you need to elevate them to be part of it. And it was obviously like heavy removal and really talking about practitioners that deal with the undocumented community. And so after the fact, I heard from a lot of attorneys that they felt it was like basically saying all attorneys are bad or garbage and those types of things. But, you know.
But she's an attorney or immigration attorney?
She's an attorney now, yeah. But I mean, I think, you know, I'm not a sensitive person, so I absolutely understood her position and like, all right, yeah, she had a bad experience. There are a lot of bad immigration attorneys out there, or attorneys that claim to be immigration attorneys that aren't, and that we need to be mindful of our clients as humans and not just our clients.
I was just before this recording, I was talking to a young immigration attorney, got a job, and he was talking to me a couple months now. He was talking to me how frustrated he was because all of a sudden he got 600 cases. And they send him to these things without ever talking to the client. He goes to adjustment hearings, adjustment interviews, doesn't know what's going on, that people have 245C issues. And he's just like stressing out. And I'm like, with the volume, they handle like 6,000 cases a year, a couple attorneys, and just jamming in there.
Straight mill.
Yes. And so there's justification in these kind of businesses that do removal like that, and they just tear people's lives apart.
Oh yeah.
So there is justification. People get frustrated. I mean, it depends on, I wasn't there to see how she said it, but these problems really exist.
Well, and I mean, it's any white collar profession.
Yeah.
Your clients are people too.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're fortunate enough in Southern California, and one of our bright notorious stars here in Southern California, Victor Nieblas. Former ALA president, he's on Telemundo every morning, very big time advocate, been doing this for a long time. We talk about this stuff all the time that in SoCal, we don't treat our clients as others. They're our neighbors, they're part of our community, they look like us, they sound like us. And it's one of those things where you realize that in other parts of the country, maybe they don't have that same type of bedside manner, that they see them as others. They see them as because you don't look like me or sound like me or background's not like mine. So I think we're fortunate enough here in LA where we're a lot more sensitive to the idea that just because you're my client doesn't mean, we're not on the same wavelength. I'm working for you, you're not working for me.
Exactly, yeah.
And we've all seen attorneys who don't necessarily subscribe to that.
And what you start with is, you see some PI or workman's comp kind of stuff, or bankruptcy. It's just, it's every business, like plumbers who or contractors remodeling your house who get started and they just let it go.
And talk down to you, or if you have anything to say. I mean, think about a doctor or a dentist. You've had that experience where you're just like, aren't you supposed to be like, in customer service, you're not this god that can tell me what to do at any time. But it is again something that I think we all need to be mindful of, that even if you take the call you just took is the same call you've taken every day for 10 years. Well, to that person, that's the first time they've ever called somebody, right? And it's on us to remind ourselves to be patient.
Yeah, I would take a deep breath after every call. Whenever I start now, take a deep breath and think, this could be a case that's, it's going to work. And get yourself in a positive mindset when you pick up. If you start negative and then you start with the craziness. I had one yesterday called, filed their own citizenship, got RFE. They wanted to do a second interview now after she responded to the interview. And she's like, is that normal? I'm like, no. She's like, well, I want to go and then hire you if there's more problems. I'm like, you're going to go and admit something crazy and then you want me to clean it up where I can't clean it up anymore? Or clean up to if it's illegal or whatever. And she just kept wanting to go around it, like, can I just hire you later? And ask me questions. I'm like, it's like saying generic facts and saying, well, could it be this?
What about this? What about
I'm like, dude, like, just this. If you don't want to pay for a lawyer, that's fine. Just make a decision. But either just do it right or just do whatever you want to do. Don't keep me on the phone on this. It was so annoying, but I had to just take a deep breath because I don't want to get a bad review online and just put that negativity out there. But that kind of frustration happens.
Well, and I think a quick tip on that. All of this is learning to be better at what we do, both professionally and personally, right? This is communication 101.
Yeah.
Dealing with people who are bad at communicating or naturally frustrating, that naturally frustrate people. For us to be able to take a breath, take a breath and be like, it has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with them.
Yeah.
And it almost like it is a exercise in getting more patient and more thorough and being a better communicator. Mm-hmm. So by not blowing over and getting frustrated and losing it, you're almost like, it's like liking to run and saying, oh, I'm going to do one more mile because I'm really tired right now, but I like that grind. I like that push. So it's kind of like even the crazy calls, which we all get, even the psychotic emails, the weird in-persons, I always end up using it as an exercise of like, all right, well, I guess I've flexed that muscle of how to deal with somebody who's seemingly impossible to deal with, that chances are attorneys have already screamed that 10 times over.
Yeah. It's good with the kids getting bigger and
Oh,
becoming
yeah.
more
Oh, yeah.
crazy and annoying. It's like
Oh, yeah.
patience.
Oh
patience
yeah, and
feel.
you know, as you grow your business, if you're bringing on people, people start working for you full time. You know, I was just having a conversation with an attorney yesterday over coffee. She's new to Southern California, although she's from here, but she's been practicing back in Florida for 10 years. And she was saying she's been senior attorneys for big time offices, and said the hardest thing is not the immigration work, it's dealing with the personalities. Yeah. And that's something I hear from more attorneys than not, that as they've grown and really solidified themselves in their practice and have a very good business and they're doing very well for themselves, they spend more time dealing with the inter-office politics and the gossip and who can't work with who and who can't do that than anything else. And it seems like a skill that we should all be working towards, which is effective communication, being logical rather than emotional as far as our reactions, and trying to come up with solutions as opposed to just walking away and hoping somebody else will deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that hiring aspect, I talk a lot of people about that, how they're dealing with it, because, you know, I reached a place in my firm, which is what my goal was as a solo, and I just wanted to continue that, but I realized I want to do more now. And so hiring becomes important because you're not going to have a company without having people. And hiring people, learning how to talk with them properly, keep the relationship professional and friendly at the same time, that's just something I'm reading a lot of books right now. I'm talking with people that are doing it to get the hang of it, and that's such a key thing. But okay, so let's go back in. Okay, so you went to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Good time. Good.
Did you have any butterbeer?
I did. So it was free.
And what does it taste
so,
like?
So you know, it's really funny you ask that, because somebody's like, "Oh, what does it taste like?" Imagine cream soda with like a butterscotch tasting butterscotch flavored frosting.
So super sweet.
Very sweet. Oh yeah. No. My wife, who doesn't like anything sweet, she would smell it and be over it. So that's what it tastes like. So, and it as goes the case with this world, it's more about the experience than anything, right? And you know, you guys will get to the one here in LA soon enough, because the one in LA is a little bit smaller than the one in Orlando. But shocker, they have a lot more room. And so they have a lot of.
Had you gone to the one in LA before?
Yeah.
So is it just the same thing but bigger, or is there more stuff there?
There's more. The main things like the castle, the roller coasters, the kind of the train, you can do stuff with your wand. That's at both. The one in Orlando has additional, like, there's this secret Diagon Alley or whatever it's called. There's these other little secret things you can go to. So it's kind of like you get a similar experience in both. But if you're really geeking out about it, the one in Orlando has this extra level of neat things.
Yeah.
It's just in 1,000,000-degree humidity.
Yeah. You gotta go to the winter. Florida is like it's a crazy place. So okay, that stuff, and then AIC meeting, and there was another thing at.
There was the Saturday evening, Saturday, the last day of the program. You have the vendors starting to pack up. You have people starting bringing their suitcases because a lot of people fly out that night. The event, there's usually a party on Saturday night, right? And then before that, there was like a pub crawl out near this at their like downtown Disney. It's called like Disney Gardens or whatever. It's basically similar if you're from Southern California, downtown Disney in Anaheim. And so that was just going from various places that you can drink and then meeting it up, held by the local South Florida chapter. So that was outside of the park, but in the same kind of vicinity.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that we really did, where you had a lot of normal people, like non-ALA people out and about. The thing about Thursday, to go back to that, is even before the event in the theme park, we went to like the Universal City Walk, and they had blocked off an entire portion of bars. And there was food everywhere, and there was people on drink tickets. So it was again, both. This was like the entertainment for that Thursday to kind of kick off the event, and that was well put together.
Yeah.
There was like a karaoke thing people did. There was some live music in these various event, these bars or whatever. So that was the other time that we were kind of in the entertainment side of it.
Yeah.
That went off without a hitch. I'd say that. I think people are mostly stoked about it. I think people had a good time. But as you know, if people go into it looking for a bad time, they'll have a bad time. Yeah. If you go into it with the right attitude, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I was laughing because I know when they have all these free food in all these places, all I do would be eating the whole time. I gained like 20 pounds and exploded. But yeah, there's people I've met who are just come at it with some pessimism at these conferences, and they're always like gripes about it and stuff. There's just so many cool people, nice people. I mean, with the numbers, there's going to be idiots there too. But I don't see how if you're an immigration that likes practicing immigration law, that you're not going to have a blast going there. it's got to be people who just don't like to practice and they're going because they think they have to for some educational purpose alone.
Absolutely.
And they just bring that negativity.
Well, I mean, I too think it's, reflective of personality, right? You know, the idea, so you and I both know, and potentially those watching this that are also ALA members and very much involved, you get the person that goes, I know everything in my world already, and I'm just here, just because I have to come. The kind of too cool for school type person, right? You have the person who's speaking, but just like, oh, I'm just doing it like, oh, we're so lucky to have you or whatever.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you do have people that geek out about it. They're excited about it. They have highlighted the day's itinerary. They're trying to make everything. They're running to lunch. They're coming back because I think they realize the value of we can always be learning. I mean, read the news every day. Our world changes hourly.
Yeah.
What was okay yesterday is different today and changes tomorrow. So for people to not go in with that really open mind and that positivity, I think it's because they got lethargic. They don't necessarily like their practice. I also see a lot of people that are like the mills you were talking about earlier. Their practice is one where if they're not constantly getting new business, then their practice will fall apart. So there's this amount of stress they bring with them. And they're coming into the conference with not this open mind of like, all right, I'm going to put my best foot forward and really network to try to meet people, but rather, oh man, I'm just barely getting by.
Yeah.
Because like the people that are there with the right reasons, we end up finding each other. We end up really having a good time. We exchange our information, and now, I have contacts in South Florida that I didn't have before, people in the Midwest, people in South Texas, and they too have somebody in LA where it's, if you're thinking about this from a standpoint that you and I have always thought about it, you never know who you can meet.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is meeting one person, and that can change your practice, that can change your business forever. Because all of a sudden they need you, and oh, thank you, I'm so glad I found you because of this, or vice versa. You're dealing with a really complex issue. You happen to talk to somebody at a free food line, and they say, oh yeah, I only do L's. Oh yeah, people send me their RFEs all over the country. Like, yeah, I'm happy to help. I love this stuff. And now you have somebody you can reach out to and say, oh yeah, I deal with this. Here's a template. Here's a sample response I usually send. And you wouldn't have made that connection had you not go, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's an age thing too. I think I spend time with people, that are 10, 20, 30 years older than I am. I spend time with people who are brand new. In one of our mini groups that we got together, a woman had just broken into immigration 6 weeks ago at a nonprofit. It's kind of one of these things where, as is most professions, it's not about the work, it's about the community, whether that makes you want to stop doing it because the community is so poisonous, or in our case, it's such a wonderful community that's so positive that it really invigorates you to want to get back home and hit the ground running.
Yeah, I'm back into. I had a down period because of a lot of Trump stuff where I was just like frustrated.
Oh yeah.
But now, well, let's talk about let's finish up the ALA stuff, and I'll talk about what's reinvigorating me a lot recently. But so overall, I think with your mentality, my mentality, there's no way you could go to the conference and not be an A+.
Absolutely.
Because we make it A+ no matter what. They could be the terrible speakers and still make it A+. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when you lose your voice, I would say. So let's do the comparison, right? Last year it was in New Orleans.
Yeah. Oh no, San Francisco.
San Francisco, excuse me. 2 years ago, New Orleans. 3 years ago, Vegas, right?
Yeah, they were so fun.
All of them were so great locations, exactly. So the positive thing about it being in a not so sexy location is that everything was in one space.
Yeah.
And as I joked about earlier, the others that I mentioned, you were going between hotels. Sometimes there'd be flash floods in New Orleans and you get soaking wet, right? The other thing that this one had that the last three didn't was meal vouchers for the lunch. Now, the lunch wasn't good. The vouchers never covered the entire lunch. However, for the standpoint of wanting to be there for the sessions, it was very convenient. And I think that was really...
Kept everyone in one place.
Kept one in one place, and you didn't have to worry about going out. Because shocker, there was nothing around.
Interesting. So
if you left, you'd have to get in a Lyft or an Uber and go 5 to 10 minutes somewhere to maybe get food.
Yeah.
So it had to be kind of in-house in that way. The other thing that was actually really nice was, for those of us that stayed at the hotel, the day after, so I left on Sunday, I finally got to sleep in. Sleep in is basically anytime after 7, right? Because you're up nice and early. And then I went to the pool before my flight.
Oh, really?
And it's 80, 90 degrees, heavy humidity, and I saw other ALA members doing the exact same thing. We actually...
this first time they'll see you without a suit.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Many people commented on like, oh, okay, this is what you look like without a suit. But, even the incoming president of ALA was there, And we, got to chit chat a little bit. Farshad was there, who's a San Francisco immigration attorney that
Farshad OG.
Exactly, that's very involved and very nice, sweet guy. So I got to see him and catch up. So it's kind of one of these things where even the non kind of conference spaces, you could find yourself in and then see other people and kind of connect with them in that very organic way. So I think it was a great conference. I think the bad thing where the location and maybe the weather when you were outside, okay, that's going to happen. But on the flip side, the fact that it was all very centrally located, I think really allowed it so you weren't spending time looking for lunch or spending time running between hotels, which in the last few years can take up your time.
Yeah. And there's a funness to it too, going around the city a little bit and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, again, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I should have gone, you should go. If you're an immigration attorney in our space, if you are not somebody that thinks you've got it all figured out, go into this conference. Next year it's in San Diego. It's a hard place to not want to be. You get over 3,000 of immigration attorneys from all over the country and all over the world. Everybody's on the forefront of this. You have people at the border. You have people in mandamuses. You have people in federal court with litigations for NIVs. I mean,
was that a primary discussion everywhere, federal litigation?
Yes. Oh, AILA now is pushing up big time. And as someone who sits on the board of our Southern California chapter, it's something that they're really trying to elevate people's practice and their strategies to say, we have the resources. If you have a good case, go up the ladder, because we are seeing time and time again that we're actually able to get successes far easier when we go that route than if we go through the traditional avenues.
Yeah, I've been focusing on a lot about that, and just popped into my head some programs we could do about that afterwards. We'll talk for SoCal AILA, and maybe use this program to record and blast it nationally to take advantage of the knowledge we have here. So that's wonderful. So you came back and you're relaxing. So just so much more I could talk about that. But any other tidbits that you picked up from the national conference?
Let's see, tidbits. Well, it seems like liaison. USCIS, CBP, which we're really unique in LA that we continue to have a nice relationship with. It seems like nationally those relationships have been DOA for a while. It seems like liaisons are coming back. So I went into one liaison obviously being, we have these committees that are able to talk to USCIS, EOIR, ICE, CBP.
DOS,
Exactly. It seems like that those communication lines are thawing out, and we are actually having things back as we have seen the years pass. So that was one thing that I got to see as kind of a positive thing that we're seeing. Additionally, from a national standpoint, it continues to be the case where whatever's not working out of DC doesn't mean it's not working in Texas, Nebraska, Seattle.
Well, let's talk about that, because the Southern California's liaison meeting with the local district 23 has been put off constantly for months and months. They finally rescheduled it to the extent that you could talk about it. They're changing the nature of what the meeting is, as opposed to being an AILA, LACBA, LA County Bar Association meeting. Is it being changed? Is that how they're framing it?
Yeah, so it seems like, from someone who's been intimately involved with setting this up for the last year and a half, it seems like it went from, hey, you guys can do it, you guys can, from headquarters to USCIS management, you guys can run it how you want, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then they had local control. Now it seems like they're getting marching orders from headquarters. You can do it, but it's got to be in this format. So we go from having a monthly meeting that's seemingly very, very warm and organic to now a quarterly meeting that's not going to be held in one of their conference rooms, but it's going to be held in room 1001, this general information room. We have to email our client. We have to email our questions in to one general email. We have to RSVP now, and they're calling it a stakeholders meeting.
So anyone can join. It's not just lawyers.
Supposedly, yeah. I mean, how does somebody get this update? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so we have our first of this type of meeting next month, and it'll be exciting to see. Is it basically same content, same idea, just we call it something different? If so, great, that's fine. Yeah. Or are we really scaling back all of the communication lines we've been able to have for so long, and we're going to have to get used to this new normal?
The thing about stakeholder meetings is it's good to have the public involved, but when I've had the phone call stakeholder meeting and it opens up, there'll be random people just like saying crazy stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it's like such a waste of everyone's time. That's why I'm like, it's good to have public involved, but it's just have the lawyers involved. Like they could do something,
Well, and I think it's because, again, I think from the conversations I've had with local leadership, they very much enjoy our involvement. They enjoy the back and forth. They enjoy that if something's going on, they can ask us just as much as we can ask them.
Yeah.
This seems more like our hands are a little bit tied. So we'll see if the format is the only change. We'll see if it's by calling it a stakeholders meeting, but like non-immigration attorneys don't know what's going on. You know, if it's an absolute S show, if you will, then maybe they'll pivot and see, okay, maybe we have, you have to get clearance before you do it first and let us know what organization you're a part of.
Yeah.
So
there's value for them. I mean, we tell them about errors that happen, you know, from their perch as the leadership. They don't always see every angle of it. And so
absolutely.
It's an easy way to just fix easy issues up.
One thing to that exact idea that I've been doing with interviewing officers, because, you know, I'm at our local offices all the time, is I let them know that the 1-800 number isn't a black hole.
Yeah.
And that if you know what you're doing, maybe you can get through it. But I let these officers know, or I ask them, have you ever called the one? Oh, no, I haven't had to. Okay. Well, just so you know, the 1-800 number eventually tells people to go to the website. The website tells people to go to the 1-800 number. So right off the bat, it gets people nowhere.
Yeah.
For those of us that know how to get through the automated system, even when we get to a human being, you have to basically convince several different people of the need of your emergency, or the need of your stamp, or the need of your, you know, this has been taking so long, and for these reasons we need it pushed. And so there's just more barriers to actually getting any type of result.
Yeah, I had yesterday a client moved from LA to the East Coast, and we got an appointment notice here in LA. I'm like, okay, I'd done an AR11, it was on notice, so I have to call them, take 40 minutes to get a hold of somebody. They're like, then we have to escalate it, and then we'll call you back in 2 hours. So if you miss that call back, you're out of luck. And tomorrow's 4th of July, I'm not sure if they're open. So, I mean, it was yesterday, it would have been today calling again, but I'm too busy to call today. And, you know, if they miss that appointment, they're going to get a denial notice. We have to do a motion to reopen. Say it's a service motion to reopen. They may accept them, may not. And so when hours later, I contacted them. They said, yeah, one system has it that your Area 11 was in, and we have their new East Coast address. But the other system that's scheduling for the field office doesn't have that. They're two different systems. I'm like, yo, what? But the officer went and took 20 minutes to go in the system, fix it. She gave me a confirmation number. If I was gambling, if I had to gamble, I would say it didn't go in the system and we're going to get a denial notice. And I'm going to mail something to the office anyways, let them know. Still doesn't make a difference. And so I prepared the client already. If you get a denial notice, you could fix it. But I just created hours and hours of work. And all of a sudden, I'm like, how do I charge this person? They're not a well-off person. And I said, I'm not going to charge you. They're really kind. They just sent me some nominal fee. It was very sweet of them. Because they're a young couple. They don't have that much money.
Yeah. But I'm sure the move is a good thing. Or
for work, it was a work move.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's kind of like, just because of a computer system, they create two complete systems that don't talk to each other. All of a sudden, everyone has to get stopped and all these problems. And even the field office, that was an appointment time. It's hard getting adjustment interviews. They just wasted that appointment time because two computer systems aren't talking to each other.
Well, and the local office hates it just the same.
Yeah.
Because they have to hit a moving target every day. All right, how many people are in today? Who's on leave? Who's sick? Who's on vacation? Who's being pulled to do something else? Okay, how many interviews do we have scheduled? Not by the local office, but by service
That's
center.
so weird that scheduling happens by the central location, not by the field office who's actually having to deal with this stuff. They're the ones who all of a sudden have to do a Stokes interview, a 4-hour interview, all of a sudden pops up. They have to have an estimate of this stuff. And none of it's just typical, none of it makes sense. I'm not sure if it's just plain old government not making sense or just immigration, intentional, unintentional, but it's just a S show as even.
No, yeah, and I think it's a reminder that these officers have far more on their plate than just your case that day. And this is something that I think we both subscribe to, that if your client or as an applicant, pro se or unrepresented, if you're not prepared with everything the officer could want, if you don't know your application backwards and forwards, if you have to think every few seconds about basic information, those are priceless minutes ticking away that these officers don't have.
Yeah.
And they're human beings. They're pulled every which way. They get frustrated. If they had a bad interview before you and you show up and they're late and they haven't had to eat, how many officers do you talk to that say, oh yeah, I never eat lunch?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you're the type of person who gets hangry, as they say.
Yeah.
Imagine having to do, somebody's life's in your hand and you're thinking to yourself, I'm so hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody says something or annoys you. Now all of a sudden you're
It's human. It's human nature. I'm very sensitive. It's the same when they call me and I'm tired of the day, and then they say, I'm like, where city are you in? They say America. And I have to say, no, what city are you in? California. And by the third time to say it, I'm just over it.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to keep it cool, but I'm just like, I'm tired. I've had 20 of these calls.
Oh, yeah.
Just answer the question, you know, and so these officers got to do the same thing. Plus, the person might be a fraud lying to them. They have to be a police officer investigating too. There's a lot going on. The computer system breaks down a third of the time. The fingerprinting system, biometrics broke, doesn't work. The camera doesn't work. The wire jiggles and it gets unscrewed. It's just like, and I was talking to one of the head officers in their system, and they're saying like, we're so slammed right now with appointments that if I can't make a decision right there, that's going to go in the dust pile. And when I get around to it, I get around to it, and I have no choice. I'd love to help these people. I appreciate what's going on, but as soon as they're done, there's 10 other people online, and then they're going to come on me and hassle me. And internally, the government's doing everything they can to screw over the USCIS officers right now. So if there's USCIS officers watching this, service centers, field offices, they're renegotiating the contract, they're trying to take away everything they can of the price. So they're internally feeling the hit, and you know, a lot of the higher ups are good leaders. They don't want to deal with that. You're a good leader. You can transfer to some other organization, the government or private sector, and be a good leader and make more money there. So it's a terrible situation, and whether you hate immigrants and you're on the Trump side of things, this is an agency that has to work. Inevitably, it's like, it's a system that has to work. You know, you can't grind it to a halt.
It's light and power, it's gas, it's
just is no
trash.
Yeah.
It's a system that needs to exist and needs to work. And again, it's the idea of calling something as simple as calling this 1-800 number that's supposedly going to help you. Heaven forbid your English is a second language, maybe you're handicapped, maybe you're older, and you don't have the help. I mean, it's really almost like
it's impossible.
They use the term invisible wall, right? It's almost like they're setting up so many barriers that whether they want to call them that or not, and that's why we get more calls these days than ever. That's why we get more emails, and people have simple questions that are wrapped up in their facts. They're like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. Oh, but why did it happen? Well, that's just what the new normal is, right?
Yeah, and it's sometimes I frustrate with their lawyer that call me and like, that's the immigration system. And the phone system, if you don't know how to play the game of the phone system, like this one, they change it constantly, I think. So that every day it's like a new way of getting around it. This one I couldn't figure it out, so instead it's interestingly they made it easier to make an expedite request, and I was like, that's the last thing they want you to do, but they have a specific button for that. So I just went to expedite, and it got to an officer, and I said, this is not expedite, but I don't know where to go. The old system of playing 0221 that wasn't working out, and they kept sending me to go to the website. And sometimes I'll play with the website, and for certain things I'll ask certain things that it's not what you're supposed to do, and it'll come through, and they'll come back with answers that don't make any sense. I'm like, how did you read that from that? But I could just go on about all the messes with that. But yeah, they don't know how to play the game, and it's an expensive game. Naturally, you have to hire a lawyer. It takes hours and hours to do the base simple stuff nowadays. Luckily, people appreciate it more when they're coming to us, but it's just it's a crazy system. And nowadays, I mean, I don't have paralegals, but I've heard maybe in the past you could have had a paralegal call in, but now it has to be an attorney to talk, and that means you have to have a lawyer on the line waiting to talk just to change an address or a basic thing like that.
I'll tell you what I've been doing. So I get a lot of people that can't make an info pass, can't make an appointment, need to make an appointment. They hire me to make the appointment for them. I have no G28. So what the strategy that I do is call in my office, put it on speakerphone, sit there for the half an hour, 45 minutes it takes to get through. Meanwhile, I would have let the applicant or new client, InfoPass client say, stand by, this is going to be a long wait, but as soon as I get somebody on, I'm going to click you over, we're going to conference you in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I get through to make an InfoPass. You finally get to a human and they say, okay, what do you want to make an InfoPass for? I tell them, but I say, before that, let me get the actual applicant on the line. I'm the attorney, but I don't have a G28, so we need this person on the phone. So that's fine, sir. What's funny about it, though, is a lot of times they're very nice. The customer service representatives, because I think they're low men and women on the totem pole, they have their script, that if you're kind to them, I think they appreciate your kindness, right?
Since they've gotten really bad at getting a hold of officer, what I've noticed is the officers gotten really nice when I talk to them.
Same with at our own local office, 1001, they're bored now, so we finally can get in there. Anyway, so I click over, the officer at the 1-800 on the representative confirms all the particular details of the case, name, date of birth, where'd you file it, what's your address, just to confirm this person is who he or she says it is. And then once it's confirmed, I can then take over and say, okay, this is what we need for these reasons. We have A, B, and C. Oh, do you have this? Oh yeah, miss, can you give this? And so I say, okay, it's put in, wait for a callback. Now I have it, I set the callback to their number most times. Sometimes I'll set it to my number, and then I know that they like to call at 7 a.m. the next morning. Right? So I'm ready. Set an alarm. I'm ready to be on call to answer any number that comes through, right? Additionally, what a lot of times happens is they'll call the person, and if the person clearly has InfoPass, needs for an InfoPass, then they can make it themselves. And then they touch base with me and say, okay, they gave me this number. Okay, go online. You can print out your form, and these are the documents you want. So I've been able to monetize the unfortunate system we work with to help somebody help themselves.
Yeah.
It's a way they don't have to pay a lot of money, but we can get them what they need. On the other side, if they call me and I do it all and I go with them to the InfoPass appointment, that's another way I'm able to do it. But again, it's one of these things where I tell people, try it yourself. I'm not here just to make money because it's a bureaucracy. If you can do it yourself, best of luck. Yeah. But if you can't, I'm happy to offer that service. I also have non-immigration attorneys contact me to help their clients who have immigration needs.
Yeah.
And those, non-immigration attorneys, they touch our world and they're like, whoa, this is
not just forms, it's not just your date of birth.
It's like, I tried it myself and this is an absolute nightmare. And it's like, oh yeah. Welcome to Tuesday. So anyway, so that's a strategy I employ these days to really try to help people help themselves. But if need be, if they want me to hold their hand through that entire process, which I don't blame people. I had somebody get emergency advance parole last week. It's actually a client of mine, and her son needs special attention, medical attention for some developmental needs he has. It'd been about 5 months since we filed, still no AP, still kind of sitting there. So I say, okay, this is legit. These are grounds. Was able to go in. She was ready to be told no right at the InfoPass because we were able to make one. But she had all the doctor's notes. She had as much as she could.
That's another thing. Preparing when you want to advance parole emergency or like that, like people, if they do it themselves, they're not going to go in with all the documents ready. And it's going to be a problem. You have to have everything and then some, just some extra stuff just to do it. It's a whole formula how to do it. Yeah.
And it ultimately comes down to, and I know every immigration attorney listening to this knows what this is like, who's the person that's helping you?
Yeah.
Are they going to say, all right, I'll print that out for you, just fill it out? Or are they going to say, sorry, come back? And it's ultimately up to them and how they feel that day, how they're perceiving you, how their day's going. So it's really a fascinating world that we continue to operate in, where there's so much power on the other side of the desk, and yet we have to be. If we have one thing out of, if we're out of step one way, it could cost us.
Yeah.
They, on the other hand,
do whatever they want.
Whatever they want, right? And it's for attorneys, we don't like. Not knowing what's going to happen, right? I mean, that's what mediation's for. That's what discovery's for. People want to know in non-immigration matters exactly how it's going to play out, and they can plan accordingly. We're the exact opposite. We never know what's going to happen, even though we've done it 10, 20, 1,000 times.
There's no consistency.
And so we basically have to be ready to go at any point in time. And when things drop, you get that an RFE, you get a denial, you get a call that says something weird. It's like, all right, how am I going to deal with this? So we have to be very good at being on our toes at all times. That's
another thing when people call and they have like one question or how to deal with this. I'm like, listen, it's not one question. I have to know everything and then some, because they could throw anything at you. So sometimes I'll file a case and I'll have like half the work we did, we don't submit. And like, why not submitting? I'm like, I'm just doing this because if they do an RFE, you have to have this ready.
Oh, yeah.
It's not needed. If you look at the regulations, there's nowhere in there. But they come back, I either argue with them or I can just give it to them and get your case going. And so we have to sit and talk. I have to see what's going on. I have to get every single birth certificate and translation of some cousin if we need to. But that's just the way it is. If you want, the reason why I have a good success rate and I have good reviews is because I'm over prepared, because you don't know what you're going to expect in this line of business.
I love the surgery line you always use, where it's like, you go in for surgery, you need to have everything ready to go, because what if you get in there and all of a sudden the heart goes? Or liver starts failing. You need to have everything ready. You can't then say, oh, give me all this stuff I need. You need to be, based on your experience, know that if this goes south, we need to have everything ready to go to cure it, to kind of remedy whatever the issue is. But there's no way you would know that out the gate. There's nothing you could read to do that. And realistically, it may even think like, you may even think I'm bilking you for more money to prepare things unnecessarily. But I promise you that if and when it happens, it will be far worth your time, energy. And how often is our consultation telling people, you're going to feel this way eventually? Trust me, because I do this all the time. And I really enjoy having that almost post-mortem or post-interview, post-approval conversation, whatever the case is, to be like, oh man, remember when we first met, 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever the case is, and remember all the concerns you had and how anxious you were? Like, it's got to be great to be on this side of it. And they say, yeah, and they say, yeah, and you were so right, A, B, and C. It's like, I'm not saying it to pat myself on the back. I'm doing it to remind myself all of the things that we do early it's so that later it's as seamless and as stress-free as possible.
Yeah.
Because this is nothing but one big ball of stress. Every day we wake up. All the missed calls, all the emails, all the follow-ups. Hey, I got this thing in the mail. All these boilerplate RFEs. And you're like, all right, like kiss, you kiss your kid, I'll kiss my wife, and then we'll get on to it, right?
So you brought up something point that is end of case. How do you finish off cases? So once it's approved, how do you say your goodbyes with them?
So it's interesting. I don't have like a traditional disengagement letter. I know that's very common, especially in bigger offices where you have staff that can kind of send something to really say, we are done now. I'm usually, because I have, I'm very picky with my clients, and I provide this very high quality one-on-one representation. It's kind of my model. I think you have a very similar model. Because we're, I think, a lot more intimately involved. Whenever the approval notices come, whenever they're admitted and they have their O1 or NIV or whatever the case may be, it's usually kind of, thank you so much, we're so happy for you, please let us know, if it's something where they need to touch base in a couple of years, because let's say it's conditional, I let people know, put it on your calendar to touch base with us in a year and a half. Whether I ever hear from you again, best of luck. Anything you need to do in the future, if you want to try yourself, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody that tries to lock people in. It's kind of one of those things where at the height of that moment of jubilation and excitement, I really just try to let them enjoy it and revel in it, and remind them that, this is your hard work. Thank you so much for your cooperation.
Yeah.
So it's really trying to leave people with the best kind of feeling possible, because how much of our business is not what you did, but what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
So you might have saved someone, resuscitated somebody's case from nowhere, but at the end something went wrong and they leaves a sour taste in their mouth. And now in their mind, oh, you weren't that good.
Yeah.
Even though oh no, wait, without me you would have been DOA.
Yeah.
Right? So I really try to kind of leave them on that positive note. I try to make it very clear, like, okay, that's that, oftentimes fees have been paid, what we agreed to, what you hired me for is now done. In my retainer language and a lot of the stuff early on, I always talk about a decision, not an approval. As you know, the last thing we want to do is tell anybody I can guarantee anything or that you will get anything. It's kind of like, best, if A, B, and C go right, you should be approved.
Yeah.
But in my written language, I always use terms like decisions. Because obviously, if you get a decision and it's not what you wanted, well then any additional work we may have to talk about what that's going to be included.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times that if your culture is cooperation and teamwork, that if things do go south, I oftentimes never get blamed.
Yeah.
Few and far between people point their finger at me, and when that has happened, it's usually because they're unfortunately just being a bit irrational and not looking at the facts.
You get emotional about it.
Exactly, which, okay, I get it. The goal though is to always remind people ahead of time what could happen, and then no matter what happens, we're going to get through it together. And I think that's what we oftentimes provide the most of, is this peace of mind that things are going to be okay. Because our clients, just like you and me, have all this other stuff going on in their life. So it's not like, oh, my immigration's the only thing. It's like, no, this is one of 10 things I worry about every day.
Yeah.
If we can give them the peace of mind to worry only about 9 things, that is very, very, I think, rewarding and is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Because how much is that anxiety what we're all struggling with?
Yeah. So tell them, like, you're hiring me to deal with the full problems and worries. Don't worry about it. If there's something I need, just answer the question, but let me worry about it. Because if you'll break it down at the beginning, you'll spot almost every issue. If there's something you can't do, just tell me you can't do it. But one thing with preparation is requesting FOIA requests, which I don't always do. It just depends on the case. Some firms have a blanket policy.
I'm the same. I case by case.
Yeah, but with the delays with USCIS FOIAs, sometimes it's kind of like, you might get some information later, like, oh, I wish I had this and stuff. But it's good to file them if you can, to get some information. I had one guy who had filed previous cases that didn't declare his military service, and now I'm like, why don't you declare? So we went and updated the system for his new filing and stuff like that. It wasn't material, I don't think, so it's going to be okay, but it's just like you catch stuff that people didn't do or include stuff they should have. So the FOIA is really helpful. Hopefully there'll be litigation to actually get FOIA responses in 30 days, which was the statute.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice if the statute was actually followed, right?
But that's a situation we're dealing with there. So what else is going on with you now that you're back? How's the firm going?
So, dead of summer, right? So a lot of what I'm very responsive to the market, right? So I also think now that people are busy in the current chaos we're living in, there's always going to be People want consultations to talk about what's going on. But we're also coming to that period of time where everybody's busy with their kids, they're busy with their summer vacations, etc. And so I'm really just kind of actually helping out a lot of other offices because they too have a lot of work coming. And with the summer, people on vacation. So inevitably, I'm getting a lot of traffic from a lot of different offices that need help, whether it's appearance work, whether it's looking over stuff. Additionally, I'm getting a lot of traffic from criminal defense attorneys that want to make sure they're safe pleas and stuff like that, which is very nice. Because in our world, that's a cousin of our world, the crim game, right? And a lot of our colleagues do both because they know they go hand in hand. And so right now, it's kind of like with the conference behind me. We're going to go to town this weekend, so that was kind of on the calendar for some time because of the holiday. But then it's just kind of this dead of summer where I'm just looking forward to just working. I think we're going to go to town end of August when my wife has some time off. But I think now it's, now that DACA is potentially on the Supreme Court to do.
When is their
deadline? So, I think summer of next year. So
summer next year. Okay.
Supposedly it's going to be before the election, right? The other thing, so that'll be interesting. So I can imagine there's going to be a lot, we're going to ratchet up the conversation of what happens if DACA goes away. And that's actually an interesting topic that I went and saw a panel on about some of your DACA holders, some of your DACA clients and or DACA holders who may have employment options to be able to change status or rather get in status, if you will, because DACA is not status, from DACA to an H-1B, an O-1, maybe even filed for an EB-2 or an EB-3 green card. And so it's interesting because DACA for so long has been kind of like, oh, well, yes, it's not permanent, but it's good.
Yeah.
Now, if there's any type of concern that the Supreme Court might go the other way, I think there's going to be this population, and we have the most in California, and LA has the most in California. So it'll be interesting if we get more of that type of traffic and those types of calls to kind of start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And then with the citizenship question now no longer being included on the census, that was news that just broke as well. It seems like this summer is going to be a reminder of, as all of these awful things are happening that we really have to get behind and try to do our best to stop, we have to enjoy the W's and remind ourselves, like you had said, to get out of this, oh my God, what if this all just goes away? Do I need to think about finding another line of work? Like, what about my family, etc.?
Yeah.
I think we have to remind ourselves of these victories and be like, no. Keep fighting the good fight. Take care of your clients. A quote-unquote simple N400 is not simple anymore. So treat that not like it's something that you shouldn't be proud of, but that you should be very much proud of, right? Like, remind yourself that even the little things, we need to celebrate those victories. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about going into the summer. Just putting in the hours, getting the work done. I'm coming up on 2 years on my own. I went on my own October of 2017. So I'm excited to get to that point, as well as at the end of the year, just to really kind of assess, okay, from a business standpoint, how am I doing? From an emotional and mental standpoint, how am I doing? From a personal life standpoint, how am I doing? Right? And to be honest, all those questions now are great. Everything's great. I'm a worker bee, so going on your own, you do as well and as poor as your efforts allow.
Yeah.
And so as someone who's always worked and is kind of addicted to the grind, but also someone that really likes helping people, it's an exciting point in the year because we're halfway through it. And now you're thinking, oh my God, 2020 already? So that's kind of what's going on my end.
Interesting. Yeah, it's the same here. I've been reading a lot of business books because there's aspects I want to hire and then what's going on in my firm. And I get really excited about business development and marketing kind of stuff. So that's like my pastime when I have free time. I read books of how to do marketing stuff or online marketing, new mechanisms for finding people online, then finding you, writing like ebooks and all this kind of stuff. So I spent a lot of time doing this kind of stuff, and it's just fascinating. And one thing I recently got into is, there was they were giving you an award 2 months ago, was it? And at LACMA?
Oh yeah, technically.
So Nick was getting an award, and I went there. We went to LACMA, LA County
LA County Museum of Art.
And there's a restaurant there that they have these LA County bar events every year and stuff. So we're getting an award, and I just said, let's take a picture. So I took a picture of you, Sabrina, I think it was, or 2 or 3 other.
Scotty was in it, I think. Maybe yeah, something like that.
And so we were in the picture, and I posted it on LinkedIn, and I said, look, immigration lawyers in LA is so good. We're all next to each other. We're all competitors. We're all like buddies. Like, we share information, have fun, we do this kind of stuff.
And I like that photo. So to confirm, yes,
So I posted that, and it went I mean, for immigration, it went kind of viral. There was like 7,000 or 8,000 views on it.
Oh, very good.
30 to 40 comments, like this and that. And I was like, oh, that's neat. And I've had LinkedIn for like 10 years, and I never used it. But I'm like, oh, that's very powerful. All around the world, all of a sudden it went, and all these people liked it. And so I was going through the people who either commented or liked, and I added them and stuff. And one person was an immigration attorney in Eastern Europe, and I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. So I said, let's have a call. Let's see what kind of how immigration works in your country. So I reached out, and I was on the way to airport to a CBP meeting, actually. So I'm like, okay, airport's a half-an-hour drive, so I'll with traffic. And I go there early, so I'm going to be parked in the parking lot. So I had a call with her, and we were talking, and then what I thought would be a 10, 15-minute call became half an hour, 40 minutes. And she was just as passionate about immigration and helping people as was here. We got along really well. And that went, and I said, okay. And then 2 months later, she's like, well, I have a client here that's an investor, wants to do an E2. And so we set up a consultation and had that. And I was like, wow, that's very powerful. Like, just putting this out there, this information, connecting with people. Now, I've been members of organizations that are networking organizations that you pay thousands of dollars for. Frankly, mostly it's older white guys who you afterwards meet and have like drinks at lunch kind of situation.
I've been.
Yeah.
Each time I've been, I look around like, this is not normal. Like, this is a relic from the 20th century.
It's a Mad Men kind of, it's a Mad Men, Mad Men the show kind of thing. And I had some mentors that came out were good, but it wasn't, I had to quit after a couple of years because the amount of money I was spending and time was not worth it. And I had one of the last ones where I had lunch with the people, they call it a troika. And the three of us, and one of them, we were talking about, Iranian community here, and he just went on a racist rant of how Iranians are this and that. And I was looking, I'm like, dude, I'm right here. But at the same time, I appreciate it because I would have referred this guy clients if I didn't know he was such a crazy redneck.
Therein lies the beauty of people showing themselves to be who they are.
Yeah.
Is that if you have the ability to stomach that type of hate and negativity, the silver lining is, okay, cool. I never have to worry about wanting to have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
I never have to worry about sending you anybody. Thank you for letting me know you're not worth my time because you're such a sad, terrible person.
Yeah, I mean, going on a really hardcore political, philosophical thing, we have regulations here, you can't discriminate, but I kind of wouldn't mind. I have an aspect of me that says I'd rather know who the idiots are, so I won't go to their restaurants. I'll tell my friends not to go. Rather than they have to smile and I'm supporting someone who's going to use that money against me.
Oh, yeah.
And so the Civil Rights Act of 1965 or whatever, it made it illegal to discriminate this and that. And like maybe it's better we know who these racist people are.
Well, I think to your point about choosing where to spend your money is the only real act that we can do as everyday Americans to actually show what we do and do not support. I oftentimes go back to, and this is actually a big component of what I tell young people who feel so lost and feel like the country is going in a direction and I'm so discouraged. I remind people where you spend your money speaks volumes. Remember 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now when the Muslim ban hit, Uber turned off their surge pricing to take advantage of the taxis being grounded. And that came up and everybody deleted their Uber. Mm-hmm. And during that time, it was Uber and everybody else, including Lyft. During that time, Lyft was actually able to elevate itself to an actually player in that world for the first time. Because you and I all had this collective consciousness to say, nope, I don't, that's shady, I'm not going to support that. And I think there's real value in, to your point, as feeling like we have some say in how the country works of where we spend our money. And now our generation, we can't afford houses, we don't have kids, we hardly get married, but all we do is work. Mm-hmm. And so with that comes this disposable income that we're not necessarily putting it away as generations before. And now we're donating to the ACLU. Now we're donating to El Otro Lado. Now we're spending money towards places because we know it's not about politics anymore. It's about supporting America as it should be supported, as opposed to this nationalist type of alt-right, bottom barrel type of philosophy that people subscribe to. So it's not like, oh, tit for tat, everybody has their own opinion. It's like, no. In World War II, there was not two opinions. It was right and wrong. Yeah. I think we're back to that point where we can be very honest to say, no, there's right and there's wrong. Yeah. Caging kids is not right. You know what I mean? Yeah. All of these government agencies being run by lobbyists of those worlds, that's not right either. It's massive conflicts of interest. oh no, but no. We can call a spade.
Yeah, and then there's a lot. So we live in a what's supposed to be a free market capitalist society, and there's a lot of anti-capitalism, anti-free market socialist kind of stuff happening. But the reality is, to me, I don't vote, and that offends a lot of people because I don't really think that there's value in voting and spending my time.
It's also very Iranian of you. I'm thinking about my father-in-law.
But I do vote in the money I spend. In a free market system where the money talks, that's what matters. And getting people are like-minded to move their money around, that has much more effect than what we're going to vote for in November. Because at the end of the day, you see the lobbyists and stuff control the system. And so if we could get money out of those corporations who buy the lobbyists, who buy the politicians, we could get it out of their hands and move it to other people. That's what we should spend time thinking about. Who are these people supporting? What are they doing? That has a much more larger scale effect on the system and the way it works. And what one part of it is, and again, the issue with socialism, which leads to higher taxation, it's not that I don't want to help people through giving money out. And then that money goes in tax dollars to this centralized organization who's going to be co-opted by these groups, who's just going to spend it on themselves. That's why I'm like, socialism is not going to work, because they're just going to take the money and they're going to say they're going to give it to you. The one you want for you, two for me. One for you, three for me. And it's the same organizations that are going to be doing it. There's different labels, different lobbyists, or different face of the politician. So if I'm going to trust anybody with my money, it's myself, and I'm going to decide where it goes. And if it requires me to spend extra time studying who this company is I'm working with or who this person I'm hiring, that's a real, we're putting a sticker on that says I voted, that's really easy. But spending your night when you go watch TV and studying whether this company I want to work for is good, or I'm working for, this happens in immigration law firms. And I was talking to people about it. So you're working at a firm, that's a mill, they're not giving good service to their clients, they're going to hearings without knowing what the defenses are, and maybe getting voluntary departure when this guy had an asylum claim. That is a disservice. Leave the job you're working. I know it's scary. It's doable. We do it. Get your own job. Control your caseload so you're giving good service to people. They can sleep at night. You're doing a good job. And it's possible. With the internet, so much marketing techniques, being friendly, networking. It's just so easy nowadays compared to it's ever been to do this. And so if you're working someplace where you're not happy with the caseload you're working for, make that change. And so we're talking about the political, let's bring it back to immigration law. You could make the change. You could do the services you need to have good service for your clients. You don't have to just say, this is the system, I have no control, I'm just going to work, I need the money. There's ways of getting around fixing all stuff.
You sound like you're a DHS or a CBP officer. Oh, I just work here. I just do what I'm told, right?
Exactly, I do what you're told.
But blood's on your hands now, right? It is. So to that idea, it's about culture, right?
Yeah.
And we know many offices with wonderful culture. We know many offices that the attorneys that run them, they practice what they preach. Everybody's happy. They have long-term retention. People want to be there and grow there. Just as much as we know the offices are the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Culture is what I think everybody's after. The under 40, the under 30 crowd, they want to go somewhere where they believe what they're doing is important and matters, even if they're not getting paid what they want, or even if it's not in the field they want. We're very unique in immigration in that, to your point, even if, this is the only job offer I got and I want to be in this, but I'm in a mill and I feel really guilty and I work way harder than everybody else because people just show up without doing the homework. Yeah. I can think of a few people I've talked to that have started there. But what do? To your point, after X amount of times, they have enough under their belt that they can have a conversation. Yeah. Resume, interview. And now because of them being almost in the front lines without any type of resources, and they've been able to do their best, now they go into a firm that's actually far better, an actual culture that actually cares about their clients. Mm-hmm. They're now an expert in a field where everybody has, in an office where people are used to baby steps, they never got the luxury of training wheels, right? They never got the luxury of those baby steps. So to your point, and anybody watching, if you're in a place where you're not happy, I mean, this is about life in general. Yeah. You have the ultimate control. I talk about this with my wife all the time. Our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, they will tell you when they were stuck and on autopilot for the majority of their life that they regret most, that they didn't take control of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have kids, if you don't have a mortgage, think about how little you have no anchors. It's up to you. But it's fine. It pays my bills. I have my student loans. Defer your loans for 6 months. Yeah. Right. Do what you can to get by on even less money if you had to. But I guarantee if you're doing what John's saying, if you're putting yourself out there and treating it like 24-hour a day job, someone's going to see that and say, all right, let me take a flyer and do some contract work for me. And all of a sudden, if you're nice and professional and get the work done and like to learn, you will get eaten up, because in our world, especially when it comes to the current issues we're dealing with, every office is taking on water. Everybody's getting more work than they can deal with. Everybody needs people that they can lean on. And at the same time, they have employees that are stealing from them. They're having people that are, not doing the work. So if you're marketing yourself and stay true to your values, leave that crappy job, utilize your network as much as you can. Reach out to us if you want to talk about this type of stuff. We love this stuff because I think John and I both come from a place where we understand how difficult it is to create momentum. But once you get a little bit of momentum, we know it's all about, all right, do you want to put it in third and fourth gear, or do you just want to keep it in second gear now? Yeah. And we're both somebody that likes to gear up, that likes to go forward. So when we see somebody that's where we were, I think we both want to spill over with the advice and the kind of, you're going to figure this out, and positive affirmations, because sometimes that's all it takes, right?
I mean, to be locked in a job nowadays that's you're unhappy with for even a second, or working with a boss that's disrespectful, harassing you in some way, it just doesn't make sense, and you're gonna regret it. There's any life where, again, you spend a day doing something you want to do nowadays in America. Maybe 50 years ago when the opportunities weren't there, the information flow wasn't happening. But let's narrow it down to our group. Immigration lawyer, you're a lawyer, you have a skill, you have a degree that you can work anywhere in the country. It's federal practice.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
Right, we know we have practitioners, Eastern Europe, we have practitioners all over the world.
If you're unhappy with where you're working at, or if you're not making enough money, that's on you. That's your fault. There shouldn't be a reason for that, because Trump is creating business, better for worse. So the money is there, the clients are there. It's just you got to figure out a way to come out of your shell to let people know you're there and do better work so people know you're doing better work. And it's hard in the sense that it takes time, and it's just it's hard to run 3 miles. Make you run 3 miles. It's annoying running it, but you do it a couple times. You work your way up, you'll do it. So you really should not put yourself in that place, because it's going to affect your mind, your body. You're going to get older quicker. Your heart's going to get affected. Your kidneys, all these psychological stuff damages you.
Right?
Stress,
the studies on stress come out every day of how toxic it actually is for you. That's how it's attached to your gut and your gut health, and how this affects your entire body. So what you're eating and what you're not eating. And it's one of these things where I think a lot of people have a hard time believing in themselves and believing in a simple idea that they need to be happy. A lot of people put everybody else's happiness first.
That's such a profound thing. I think most people don't think they deserve happiness. There's this original guilt that they have.
Or think about what it takes to become a lawyer. Think about all that you have to do to get here. And when you finally get here, and you're told, oh no, this is the actual beginning of the race. That was all just a warm-up, right? And you're like, wait, what? And then you realize that the practice of law and the study of law and the study of anything is very different.
Yeah.
And so maybe you were really good at law school. Maybe you were really good at studying. And here you are having to deal with the things we're talking about, and you're not good at that. You're introverted. You're a brilliant research and writer, but you're terrified of providing something that's not 100% great. So you're obsess over it being perfect.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, we all know what this is like. The person that needs it says, it's late, I need this now, and now you get in trouble. And now you're spiraling out of control. The idea of being happy, and the idea of, like you said, of feeling guilty of being happy, of putting your happiness first, I assure you this: if your lifeboat and the person next to you's lifeboat is taking on water, if all you're doing is helping them and not helping yourself, eventually both of you will be in the water. You need to remind yourself that in order to help people, you need to make sure you yourself are being helped. Because there's as much as burning the candle on both ends provides light, eventually it goes to darkness. And so you just have to remind yourself, sometimes every day. It's not weird, or it's not crunchy or groovy or whatever, or hippie, to be really overly positive and look at yourself in the mirror and do yoga and go for a run. Doing that mental health stuff, again, studies are very clear. That's the stuff that allows people to have the longevity, to have a career that is the 40 and 50 years doing what they want to do. If you're looking at this, you're out of law school, or you're in a job you don't like, and you're thinking to yourself I'm not happy, I don't like how I look, I'm overweight, I'm not healthy, I don't make enough money, all of that is a symptom of one thing, and that's not being the person you need to be. And so one thing that I think John and I really like talking about is, at the end of the day, it's our decision. And although there are structural, there are societal, there are racial, there are gender aspects of this conversation, at the end of the day, it's up to us to say each day, am I happy? And if you're not happy, okay, well, why aren't you happy? Well, I don't like my job. Get a new job. Oh, but I need to make money. You'll make money. All right, well, I don't like where I live. Or I don't like this relationship. It's all symptoms of the same thing, which is you're putting other people's first.
And I can talk about this stuff because I was there, and all the bad side of it, I had to grow myself out of it. There's this expectation a lot of people have is someone else is going to do something to get me happy. I'm going to get through this, and then this is going to happen. It's going to make me happy. It's all from you. And if frankly, if not just employers and friends, it could be even family members. You got to put yourself first before you. Let's say a parent is sick. If you're not doing well, you're not going to be able to help that parent, and they're going to be happy if you're doing well. So if your parent's not doing well, but your firm makes money, and then you could help them out and buy them a car or something, that's going to make them really happy. Even if it's family and stuff, you really have to be in the right place yourself, and then you can be a foundation where everyone builds around. So that's one thing there's a Tupac line that says, all I want to grow up is to be the Don of my own crew, like to be the boss of my own crew. Because and that's something that really resonated with me. I'm like, once I get my stuff together, I become the center of mass of everyone else around me who can get themselves together and stuff. And from this podcast and stuff I've been doing and being in the right place myself, I've mentored over 100 people, found over 50, 60 jobs for people, doing all these kind of stuff. My order and lack of chaos in my life, which order leads to happiness when you're not consumed with all this craziness, it seeps out of me into everyone else's lives and helps them create order in their lives. And that's my way. Again, voting and stuff, that doesn't mean anything to me, but creating more order in my life has caused the people around me to create order in the lives of everyone else around me, neighbors, family members, people watching this show, this program. They're getting clients and getting paid and able to relax with their family because of that. Spend a weekend with their kids because they learned some sort of trick I said here that caused them to make an extra case, which means they go on a vacation with their family that wouldn't have gotten. So it just seeps. Once you create order and happiness in yourself, it just goes everywhere.
Which is counterintuitive. How does taking care of myself help other people?
Yeah.
Well, because once you take care of yourself, you have more time, energy, and peace of mind to take care of others. Yeah. It's kind of like we're all trying to get, out of a fire and you need to get through the roof. Well, if you're worried about bringing everybody with you, well, then nobody's actually going to get through. But if you just climb the rope, climb the ladder, get up, and then do what you're doing and do what I love doing, turn around and say, okay, everybody, here's my hand, come. Yeah. And you're just helping people because you're now safe. It's a very real practice to say, okay, if I can't take care of myself, then how am I going to take care of anybody else? And that's, we're almost taking a bigger step outside of just the practice of law and immigration in the immigration space, but it's more like the vicarious trauma, the indirect trauma that people deal with in this world, taking on the energy of other people, whether it's humanitarian side or business side, it doesn't matter. You take on people's stress. Yeah. And if you're not doing everything you can to make sure that you're at equilibrium, then that's going to seep into you in the as far as seeping is concerned, the other way. So I was telling a colleague yesterday how, she was talking about, I've been working on my website for 3 months and it hasn't gone live because it needs to be perfect. And I know that's my problem. And I said, I think I put my website up in an hour because I knew that if you can't find me, then and again, it's one of those things where maybe men are better at doing it because maybe we're more selfish. Maybe we're better at saying, I got to get mine. I think about my wife all the time. She's so, and always has been, so concerned about others that she has to actively work on the things we're talking about because her natural inclination is everybody else.
And that's what we're taught since they were a kid, and a lot of women especially. You got to think about the kids first, then yourself. That's like what's good at having a sick mom or a tired mom. Let's have her, if mom be good, and especially in foreign cultures, you have to, like Iran, it's all about sacrifice yourself for the crew. In Asian cultures, it's like, no, you're a human being, you're an individual, and it's a very American, Western idea of the individual. But you see that, and that's why you have, frankly, mass murders. Like you have, Stalin in this area, you have China, you have things happening in Iran, because people just forget that individual has value. So when people get slaughtered in mass, it's not a big deal. But in America, hopefully, we deal with black people in slavery in a horrible way. It showed that we just dealt with them as differently, and groups come from Latin America. And it really just shows, like, when we think about people in immigration, it's always like, oh, the Mexicans are coming or something. We don't think of it as a human being, even when we say Jose, it's like a typical name. Well, it's like some untypical name, but we don't think that these are individuals coming here. And that one photo, that terrible photo of the father that drowned with a child, that really shows this is a person, and that's a baby. It's not a Salvadorian, it's not a Nicaraguan or a Mexican. This is an individual.
A human being.
And that really resonates in America, because we're supposed to be taught that individualism is really important. And that's so important. Think of yourself as an individual. You're an individual. You might be Mexican American and have these different names, but you're Nicholas Mireles. I'm John Casravi. You're a person. I'm a person. The people call us. we really have to look at it as that. I kind of lost track of what that. So that image came in my head, and I kind of lost track. Yeah.
No, but I think to your point, it's it is what makes America so great is it's not where you come from, it's where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's about the future, it's not about the past. Other countries around the world, you're locked into wherever you're born into, right?
Yeah.
And it's about the past. No, because of the past, you are this person.
Yeah.
And
you're stuck in the grouping of where your dad was and the dad's dad was.
Exactly.
If you're doing this where you're stuck, but it's like, no, my dad was my dad. I'm me.
I'm here. And it's almost like, I think this is what makes our country so wonderful, especially in places like in Southern California where we really celebrate diversity and the difference, is that just because you're Persian American doesn't mean you're A, B, and C. Yeah. No, let's talk about what part of town you grew up in. Let's talk about where you went to school. Let's talk about the friends you had. What kind of music you're into. What kind of scene were you into. Were you like this? That's going to tell me more about you, the individual, than anything else.
Yeah.
It's almost like I care more when I ask people, oh, where are you from? Oh, well, my dad. No, I know you're Filipino. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you from Orange County? Oh, that's what's up. What high school did you go? Oh, okay, you're probably, I like to think about it in that way where it's about our experiences as individuals that makes us who we are. In an era when people want to, in 148 characters, to tweet about, oh, because you're from here, you're this.
Yeah.
Because you're this gender, or you're non-gender, or this sexuality, oh, you're this. And so, yeah, to your point about the individuality, to kind of extrapolating that from the masses, that goes back to the idea that if you're struggling with putting yourself forward, or first, if you're struggling with moving forward, because of these anchors that you have, because your parents lean on you too much, your brothers and sisters, you're in a toxic relationship. I promise you this, as bad as you think it will be to change, the life you currently have is no better. So why not roll the dice? And I guarantee you it's going to get better. And we see this because we came out at a time when the market was terrible for jobs. We see this because as attorneys, I think we're like one of the lowest income producing attorneys out there, right, as immigration attorneys. But on the flip side, I don't know any group of attorneys that are happier. I don't know any group of attorneys that are more cooperative and collaborative.
Yeah.
Nor do I know any group of attorneys that is doing more to try to protect the United States from this current administration and what it's trying to do. So it's
build the country by bringing good people here.
Oh yeah. Oh well, it's a testament to the statistics show it time and time again. People that are able to come here, to give up their family, to give up their culture, to give up their standing, to start brand new, you're going to want those people.
Yeah.
That perseverance, that ingenuity, that entrepreneurship. I mean, look at the numbers for people that start businesses. Look at the numbers that people really scream from the mountaintops what it is to be an American and to live the American dream. It's that if I work hard enough, I can survive, I can become what I want.
Yeah. And
that's not usually somebody that's been here 4 or 5 generations. That person's usually hoping that mom and dad or grandma and grandpa take care of them.
It's like this one guy makes, even a foreigner comes in, makes a lot of money. The kid does okay. The grandchild, if they're wealthy, then they become, snotty,
entitled. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's just human nature. It is everywhere in the world. Iran has a long culture of having kings. So you look at it, like the first king came, created the system. The son did okay. The grandson did so much, and then the great grandson just destroyed everything. Someone came and overthrew him because he couldn't run the place, and everything fell apart. There's a stagnation that does happen. So you always need that fresh blood. It's just scientific. You constantly need it's like a river. You need new water coming in. The waters get stagnant in the pond.
Well, and how much of the free market, quote unquote, capitalism, because it's kind of like corporate welfare more than anything. It's not real traditional capitalism. How much it is built on the backs of, labor at the bottom and people with money at the top, right? And how much of being born and raised in the United States are you told, oh, I'm not doing those jobs. I'm not, if it's not A, B, and C, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's why crops go unpicked. That's why, big business, agribusiness, that's why they're struggling right now because they don't have the labor that they've come to depend on to grow this quote unquote free market capitalist system they have, or this business they have within that system, because the system has always benefited from foreign labor coming in because it's better to come in at the bottom here than be where they were anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and so the system, the centralization of the system, because now all these agriculture, all these groups are like getting bought out. So it's like these mega companies that didn't have relationships, and then I would say this is a format of capitalism, but free market it isn't, because they're using their connections with the government. Because the government, they probably, these big corporations that hire undocumented people because they give claim slave labor wages or not wages at all, They want these laws to exist, illegal laws, just like drug dealers. They want drugs to be illegal because that allows them to control the system the way they do behind the scenes, because that immigrant who's here illegally is not going to complain when they're legal. And the slave master knows that. Because if they're legal, they can complain and go sue and get their money's worth. So they hand in hand, they talk in one sense like, yeah, we need more, foreign labor coming from pick these farms. But on the other hand, these organizations might say, okay, just keep it illegal because then they're going to ask for more money. So it's not free market. They're using the government and pushing back, things. And that's what it comes out, Think
of the bailouts that we're seeing time and time again now for these farmers.
Yeah.
It's like the same farmers on the I-5 going to Northern California that said farmers for Trump. Now they're complaining that their almonds are being, there's these tariffs in China and all their almonds went that way. And now they're not, now they're going going bankrupt. It's like,
and the big ones are getting. I read like Trump said, okay, we're going to give them huge subsidies, which is really stupid. Like we're getting things now. They have to give them subsidies, so more money to give to those. But the ones that know how to get the subsidies are the ones who have teams of lobbyists and accountants to get the subsidies. So the small farmer, even though a subsidy is great for him because he's getting hurt by these dumb decisions, he's not going to have access to those subsidies. So it's creating intricacy in the system just to create it, and then people make money off the inefficiencies of it. And so that's why it's like, if it was free market, I'd love it because then we can make decisions based on our purchasing power. But it's corporatist. It's like who has power and connections to use the power and tool of the state to take it from other people and stuff. And it's always easy to use propaganda to couch up. No, we're saying it like this, but really have other intentions and to fool people with it. And it takes a lot of study and time. And with the inflation and the expenses happening, most regular people don't have the extra time to sit here and study this stuff and think about it. It's just like we talked about before, if I'm making $15 an hour, when I get home, I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm not going to sit and study something about this subject. It's just, the brain's not going to handle it. And it's justified. You need to relax. Because tomorrow you have to wake up at 6 again to go and do hardcore work for making $50 a day or $100 a day. And then if you need a lawyer, all of a sudden you're spending $300, $400, $500 an hour. It's like, how am I going to afford that? How am I going to pay my car insurance? I think this treadmill is an intentional part of it too. Keep him so busy with that, with just work. And then again, in the 1950s, one father could work and take care of the whole family. But this is the system that we got from that. So I blame the boomers a lot too. You had the money and the opportunity. I mean, you challenged the Vietnam War to a certain extent. They eventually got out of that. When actually it was teenagers who had to go and die and get shot at universities.
Black people of color. A lot of immigrants.
It gets because when you have the opportunity, because there was a whole echelon of people there that had the time, money, and to do it, but they went and got drunk and partied and did disco instead of dealing with these issues. So our parents' generation that were American. They had the money, time, the influence to do something they didn't because they were comfortable. And had the ones that are getting beat in the head to do it, and it's always going to be the same. The ones that are feeling the pressure have to do it, and the people that have it given to them, for the most part, statistically, there's few and far between that take advantage of that. There's a lot of people who grow up with a lot of money and then they blow it. They become addicted to drugs or they don't do anything with their lives and they're constantly just doing BS jobs just to make it. If they have enough money coming in, they can sustain themselves, but eventually that money runs out. A lot of them become just losers eventually. So it's not even a given that you're going to necessarily get the benefits and the privilege of that because you're going to blow it because that privilege poisoned you to be able to continue it.
Well, how much of life is you have your friend that had everything that became a burnout. You had your friend who had nothing, came from very humble beginnings, very difficult, with a lot of trauma, very successful. And it's almost, we all can think about our group of friends growing up with the kids that we grew up with, and that there's really no rhyme or reason. And I can imagine as a parent, that's kind of scary. Because it's kind of like, no matter what we do, eventually they're going to become teenagers and start making their own decisions. And based on those decisions, they're going to start on certain paths. Right? And you almost hope, okay, have fun with like the bad kids for a little bit, but make sure you stay with your AP friends too. Right? Because it's kind of one of these things where it doesn't matter how little or how much you have. At the end of the day, we all become our own agents to make our own decisions. And after you start making so many decisions of either, I don't want to work, mom and dad will pay for it, or, I have to work because no one's going to look out for me. The person that is like that person that's hungry, they become attorneys, right? They become guys like you and me who are addicted to the grind because nothing was given to us. We had to work very hard, and we understand the importance of work, but also the payoff is what makes it all possible. When you can take care of clients, take care of yourself, and do it without causing harm, it gives you reason to live. It gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. But it's kind of like the marathon runner who says, but you'll love how you feel. Like, I could just run 5 miles and feel the same. Like, no, but after 26.2, when you're done, that feeling you'll want over and over again.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, like, before I started my own firm and did this podcast, the toolbox, all the fun stuff I'm doing that's really, like, touch people across the world, I worked at a firm and it was comfortable. I was getting paid well. But if my boss paid me a little bit more, I probably would still be working for him. And that little bit more would just be a fraction of what I'm making right now. And have less than a fraction of the influence I've had in America and in general and in the immigration law community.
Or just, it gives you, nobody wakes up and says, oh, I'm an attorney now. Okay, I know, I turn off. I think we are a generation that we're going to be doing 10 and 15 different things all at once because we grew up multitasking with the internet, with electronics, etc. So it's interesting you say that because I oftentimes think about that, oh, if there was a number, what would be that number? Just to go to one place and do one thing. And it's almost like, oh, you realize like, oh, but it's not about the money. It's about almost like you were made aware when you went on your own, all of these other things you can do and how much more meaningful they are and how much joy they bring you. And it's not even something you're necessarily monetizing. It's not like because you're making a bunch of money on it. If anything, yes, there's indirect ways that you get more work. But it's almost like being an immigration attorney is your day job. Doing all this other stuff is like your passion.
I mean, it's a net loss. I mean, the amount of time it takes to do all this, but like, it's more fun. Why would I? And again, goes to like, if you're doing a job, you're just doing it for the money, and you're just tired and frustrated with employers and coworkers and stuff. It's like, why do that? Just get paid less if you have to. Eat McDonald's every day if you have to.
Yeah.
But just live a life that you could be proud of. Like, wow, I did this. I'm having fun. I'm doing interesting things. I'm talking with interesting people. But one thing that popped up in my head when we were talking about the sense of entitlement. My kid's like 1.5 now, and sometimes he'll want to come on the couch and he can't do it, and he'll keep trying, and then he starts crying and yelling, and then people around me are like, "Well, pick him up." I'm like, "No, let him do it." And I'm like, "Is that too soon or not?" But I'm like, I prefer him like cry and then eventually get on the couch, or if he gives up, and I'll say, "Don't give up." Have talk with him about that. Then just to help him because I was parts of my life I was helping my parents a lot, and those are the exact parts where I had a hard time and had to get through the last 5 years, 10 years to develop my own practice in my law firm, were the parts where my parents felt bad and they wanted to coddle me, and it's all the stuff that I had problems with. Every part that they coddled me when I was like having a difficult time, I'd give up, they'll say that's okay, instead of saying that's not okay, and like, no, push harder. Or talking with people and being outgoing, communicative. Where if I was shy, they would say, "Okay, it's okay. He's just shy. It's okay. He's a shy kid." It's like, no, it's not good being a shy kid. Like, that's going to affect me in the relationships I have, meeting a wife or a spouse. Finding clients, talking to colleagues. Being shy is like a horrible thing. It might just be cute when you're a kid when you're shy, but it's gonna just be, it's like a disability when you grow up.
It's a handicap.
Yeah, it's just say, oh, just okay, he's shy, he likes to read books, he's a quiet kid, he's introverted, he likes to read books and study. It's like, well, that's one
He'll
part
grow
of it.
out of it.
Yeah.
Like, no, if you don't challenge me, I'll never grow out
Yeah, it don't make me feel comfortable that it's okay to be like that. And so maybe some people are just like that, but it shouldn't be just, it's a decision you have to make and how comfortable they are, but don't add into like it's okay. It's maybe okay, maybe not, but just know the consequences of being like that. And don't just say because you know how hard it's going to be to come out of that shell and not want to kind of hide that hurricane is out there, hide me from the difficulties of life. And so the more, that's always a conscious part of it. When I raise my kid, don't make it easy for him. And sometimes I'll do stuff that's intentionally like make it hard for him to see if he can do it just because I don't want to make things too easy. Because I know he can do it. I mean, he can get on the couch. He's tall enough. He just like has to put his foot in the right place. And he has to figure out where that is. Mm-hmm. And by me pushing him up from his butt, he's not going to learn where he's supposed to put his knee and his leg to get on the couch. And he needs to learn that because he's never going to learn how to get on top of something if he doesn't.
It's interesting. As someone who's not in the parent game, I do think about it from the standpoint of if your parents aren't hard on you and discipline you, who's going to be? Mm-hmm. Nobody else. Teachers can't do it anymore.
No.
Other family can't do it. Like society's not going to do it. And so it is an interesting concept to where I wonder if these last few, kind of cycles of parenting where people have become so sensitive, giving their kids all they could ever want, make sure there's zero discomfort. Yeah. But we're now seeing the negative side of that because these kids now that are in their 20s and our peers that were so coddled are now having a really hard time adjusting to being a grown-up, and their parents are now still on the hook.
Yeah.
I wonder if as our generation's having our kids, I wonder if we'll go back to being a little bit more conservative and disciplinarian because we know what happens when you don't.
I think the cycle is just never, that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, because I couldn't agree with you more where, the conversations I have with my partner and my wife about if we ever have kids and what it's going to be like, it's like to make things too comfortable, you are setting them up for failure. Like you said, the hurricane's outside and you hiding inside is all well and fine, but Eventually you have to go outside. And if I, as a parent, didn't provide you even just some of the skills or introduce you to those skills that you can then work on, that's, I think, I'm me doing a disservice to you. Mm-hmm. Oh, why? Because didn't want you to cry? Because I didn't want you to feel bad? Life is so much harder than when you're a child, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think it's a testament that parents don't know what they're getting into when they become parents. I think parents learn along the way, and sometimes you're teaching the class, and you're hoping to be one section in front of your students, but sometimes you're learning it the exact same way. Yeah. And meanwhile, the students are learning it by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah. And there's real lasting effects and impressions of that. Again, just think of the kids that had everything. Think about, like you said, being coddled and not being coddled. Think about the trauma you had to deal with, the lack of trauma. It's an interesting concept. And then kind of coming full circle to the aspect of being introverted versus being extroverted, or just being comfortable in your own skin. And then some of the aspects of you were talking about with big business and corporations and how they're kind of one and the same, and the government. It goes back to networking, right? Yeah. Let's go back full circle. When you go to conferences, if you're not outwardly going and meeting people and trying to show people who you are because you're nervous, because you're introverted, you don't know what to say, or embarrassed. Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, I'm like this because I have no dignity, I have no pride, I have no shame. I'm so comfortable with who I am as a person that I'm happy to go into a brand new group of strangers and get to know everybody right away. Be a loud guy, be this, be that, be the things that make me unique. And I realize as I get older, because I've been told this my whole life, but that's a very unique skill you have. To me, it's not a skill. To me, it's just a reflection of just how I am as a human being. Mm-hmm. But I also was raised with a bunch of brothers. I was also raised with a bunch of guys. I also knew that if you were insecure about something, someone would find that out, and they would burn you to the ground. So the best way to not be insecure, or the best way to fight people making fun of you for something you're insecure about, is to stop being insecure about it. Yeah. And how does one just, who cares? Yeah. Oh, you're insecure about how you look? Okay, who cares? Yeah. You're insecure about your size, you're insecure about you're not making, you're insecure about, I don't go on dates enough and I'm awkward. Stop worrying about it. Mm-hmm. Because some things you can't control, other things you can. If you don't like how you look, okay, do something about it, right? And so as I grew up, I realized the value of, if you're happy with who you are and you're being very honest with who you are, again, going back to if I'm not happy somewhere, I change it, then you realize nobody else has power over you. Yeah. And if somebody thinks I'm a loudmouth or a jerk or annoying or whatever, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure I am. But I know the way I go about my business, I can hold my head up knowing that I do it for genuine reasons that I do, and I'm not doing it for any alternative reasons. I'm not doing it so people like me more. I'm not doing it so I can get business. I'm not doing it because if I help you, then maybe you'll be forced to help me. It's like, no. I am who I am. I am. And that allows me to kind of be the best person I can be. We just happen to operate in a physical space where there's a lot of smart people, but a lot of those same smart people it's hard for them to have a basic conversation. Yeah. So I can imagine from your own anecdotes and now having your own son thinking no. Trust me, I want to help him up the couch using that story, but I know that he'll be so much more proud of himself if he can figure it out on his own. Yeah. And that's real powerful stuff for a 16-month-old, right? Yeah.
But it starts soon. They say most of your mentality and what you're going to be in the first 3 years. So he's kind of wild and crazy and runs around, but if he's not hitting people or something like bad, I'll stop him, but to a large extent, I let him do whatever he wants because I don't want him to hear no, to think there's barriers to what he could accomplish. Because I see people every day, especially the internet's so good, you see people that come from nowhere and they become wildly successful in every aspect. And there is no. The fact that you and I aren't the most famous immigration attorneys and aren't doing the biggest cases, making the most amount of money and everything, it's just our own limitations we've set for ourselves. Even though a lot of people watching this are like, you guys are doing good, we could do much better. I think the biggest thing is just mental barriers and thinking I have to do this versus do this, but then realizing there's a lot more you could do with your time, and if you learn new tricks and just the conclusion of that is just the only thing that's stopping us from being even bigger and greater and more success is our own mindsets. And so you self-telling you no. And you have less of that because you're outgoing, but there are parts of you that do. And every year it goes by and you accomplish something, you look back, you're like, wait a minute, I could have just done that last year. Mm-hmm. But there's a part of me that says, no, you have to go through this, you have to get someone's permission, or it's not possible. But a lot of times you call, and even with immigration cases, I'll tell people you can't do this, you can do that, and either I'll do some research, I'll call somebody and realize like that, or I'll hear someone that says, no, I just called the office and they fixed it. I'm like, oh, I thought I had to do a whole motion, this and that. Yeah. I'm like, no, just show up at the InfoPass, and I said, at least I used to be, and just tell them what happened, and they'll fix it for you like that. Or contact the NBC and say this happened, contact the embassy directly. Don't create artificial barriers, try everything. And then it might just work. I had a guy who contacted me who got this travel ban waiver approved. You don't want me to reveal too much information, but he's like, I didn't take no for an answer, so I just kept calling him every month. And I called the congressperson every month, and I went up and down the call tree of the State Department. I called them every month until they got tired of me and they approved my travel ban waiver. Now, he had some good facts with this case too, but I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that's how you do it. Did himself. So, I mean, the problem with this, when he came to me, I'm like, I can do all that, but it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to work. So, am I comfortable with taking, thousands of dollars from you, so it's not going to work? And you're a young guy and you don't have that much money, but he's like took on his own and just did everything he could and it got approved. So it's just tenacity and not taking no for an answer and just pushing your way through it. It works a lot of time.
Well, and I think isn't that what successful people always tell you? Successful people always find a way.
Yeah.
Unsuccessful people always find an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of one of these things where, like most things of life, once you've done something enough times, you realize like, oh, I can do this more, and you build up that momentum. You kind of get rolling in that way. And it's, those artificial barriers, thinking that there's a lot more to something than not, because you're insecure that you don't want to look stupid, you're insecure that you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, right? We all remember being brand new. We remember going to court for the first time and saying something like, oh no, that's not what you say.
Yeah.
And again, all of those insecurities, it comes back to being confident with who you are. And reminding yourself, we all got to start somewhere, right? Yeah, it's it's always so fascinating, because I find that even stuff like this, that if somebody's looking at their day like, oh, but we talk to this colleague all the time, if I can't make money on it, I'm not going to do it. It's a waste of time. Like if I can't monetize it right away, okay, it's a very micro approach, right? Yeah. And I always think about those attorneys, because it's like, man, you leave so much on the table, because in a world where it's all about relationship building, it's all about trying new and creative things, because I don't know, aren't you paying attention? That's what sells these days, right? Yeah. I oftentimes think about it's these types of things that I get, that I'll wipe my calendar clean from, even if it's this or getting a new case, getting somebody to actually pay me money. It's these things that I prioritize, because I think the value of having this kind of conversation, about posting these types of videos, about really kind of just almost thinking out loud. All it takes is one person to say, oh wow, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. All it takes is one person, now that person reaches out and you've gotten this message, and say, hey, I really appreciate A, B, and C. It really allowed me to understand that I'm not alone in this or that. And, what did it cost you? It was some time or whatever. And now you have that relationship. So that macro approach, thinking about things in a long term, I think is very hard for a lot of people. But again, you see that successful people oftentimes, as they take care of their bills for today, they're also setting up for success for tomorrow.
There's always a 1, 3, 5 year plan that goes on every move. It's just a chess game. So that's the way to success. Thanks, Nicholas. It was a wonderful time.
Absolutely. I look forward to doing it again, awesome. John. All my best to you. Happy 4th of July. Everybody enjoy your holiday if you're watching this after.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to us. Definitely reach out to Nicholas if you want to talk with him. What's the best way to contact you?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I'm sure I'm put on this LinkedIn page. Feel free to do that. Websites, Twitter, Facebook. You can email me. You can text me right now. I come from a similar school like John, where I'm always available. You just have to find me. So Nicholas Mireles. You can look up the email or the spelling of my last name. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And even if you just want to chat with me about John, I can do that too. I love talking about John.
And if you want to watch the show, it's immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. It's part of the immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. If you are LinkedIn, I created Immigration Lawyers Toolbox LinkedIn page, and I post a lot of videos there. I post job openings I hear about there too. There's a lot every day almost. I'm posting 1 or 2 at least job openings at universities, different firms. There's a lot of hiring going on. So I kind of was originally doing it on the website, posting it there, but that was too much work. I thought LinkedIn is a good place because I can link back to organizations so you can look them up too. So just go to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox LinkedIn page. I post videos, snippets, and some stuff that I don't post anywhere else right on that page. I'm making that a centralized social media page. And then there's always the website, immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. A lot more stuff are coming. I'm in the work of doing a lot more informational products that are going to be coming out. But Nicholas is a part of it, and I love having him here. He's a good guy to talk with. But so, till next time, have a great one.
Bye guys.